Dr. Andrea, a dedicated 54-year-old psychiatrist, had long suspected that her husband, Juliano, was cheating on her. Driven by an unsettling intuition, she decided to install a hidden camera in their bedroom, never imagining that what she would discover would leave her profoundly and terrifyingly shocked. Andrea's life was consumed by her demanding job at a prestigious psychiatric clinic. Her daily routine, filled with intense and challenging cases, was fueled by her passion for helping patients understand the complexities of their minds. On this particular night, she stayed late at the clinic, discussing complicated cases with colleagues and catching up on overdue reports. It was 11 p.m. when she finally left the workplace, carrying the hope that her efforts were making a meaningful difference. Her usually calm drive home was disrupted by unexpected roadwork on the main city thoroughfare, turning what should have been a 20-minute journey into an hour-long odyssey. Exhausted and frustrated, Andrea found herself stuck in traffic, each passing minute intensifying her longing for the comfort of her home. After what seemed like an eternity, Andrea finally arrived at her residence, which was enveloped in darkness, a sign that Juliano had likely already gone to bed. She quietly unlocked the door, the soft click of the latch resonating in the silent house. A dark hallway stretched out before her, dimly lit by the faint light seeping from under the bedroom door. Then, she heard it for the first time. A soft, almost imperceptible, feminine laugh. Andrea froze, her heart racing as her mind struggled to process the sound. She took a cautious step forward, then another, edging closer to the bedroom door where the noises originated. "What is happening here?" she murmured to herself, incredulous. The clear, joyful voice of a woman mingled with that of a man. Not just any man, but her husband. "Oh, you, come here, my love," the woman's voice cooed. It couldn't be, Andrea thought, but as she neared the door, the sounds became unmistakable. Laughter, conversation, the intimacy of a shared moment. "My wife will never find out about us, my love," Giuliano's voice, unmistakable and brazen, pierced Andrea's heart like an icy blade. Rage boiled within her, propelling her into action. With firm and resolute steps, she marched to the bedroom door and, in a gesture of pure fury, flung it open, shouting, "Oh, really? Look here, you creep. See how I discover everything." But what she found made her stop abruptly. The room was shrouded in darkness, with only the outline of the bed visible under the faint light from the street lamps outside. Juliano was there, huddled in sleep, covered by the blankets. There were no signs of another presence, no indication of the female voice she was so certain she had heard. Perplexed, Andrea stood still, trying to comprehend the scene before her. Juliano, awakened by her sudden outburst, rubbed his sleepy eyes and looked at her, confused. "What happened, love? Why are you yelling?" he asked, his voice laden with sleep and surprise, completely unaware of the emotional storm raging inside Andrea at that moment. Still shaken by confusion and adrenaline, Andrea gazed at her husband, who was struggling to keep his eyes open, yearning to return to his slumber. The tension seemed to dissipate, replaced by an uncertain calm. In a voice still trembling with emotion, she spoke, "Sorry for waking you, dear. You have to work early tomorrow, and I didn't want to disturb your sleep. I just got confused." Her words faded into the silence of the room, an apology carrying more than the discomfort of having disturbed him. It was a plea for having doubted, even momentarily, the integrity of the man she shared her life with. Juliano murmured something unintelligible, a response still wrapped in the haze of sleep, before turning over and sinking back into the peace of his dreams. Still dressed in her hospital attire, Andrea felt an overwhelming need to shed the weight of the day. "I'm going to take a bath, dear, and then I'll come to bed," she said, more to herself than to him, as if promising to try and leave behind the shadows of doubt brought on by the night. The walk to the bathroom felt unusually long, each step echoing with the whirlwind of thoughts swirling in Andrea's mind. The hot water from the shower poured over her like a blanket, as if each droplet was trying to wash away not just her physical exhaustion, but also the unsettling certainties that troubled her. "I'm sure I heard him talking, didn't I?" The question repeated in her mind like a persistent melody, refusing to be silenced by the sound of the water. Logic battled emotion. Reason tried to overpower intuition. "It must be just exhaustion, that's all," she tried to convince herself. After all, the day had been particularly taxing, filled with challenges that demanded not only her professional expertise, but also an extra dose of empathy and patience. Today was intense. I must be hallucinating. This conclusion seemed to bring some comfort, a plausible excuse for what otherwise would be inexplicable. Perhaps fatigue had played a cruel trick on her, making her hear voices where there were none, creating shadows where there was only the light of love and trust. After her shower, wrapped in a sense of calm, Andrea returned to the bedroom, moving silently so as not to disturb her husband's peaceful sleep. She slipped into bed, snuggling close to him in a comforting embrace. In that closeness, she allowed sleep to envelop her, offering a welcome escape from the doubts that tormented her, knowing that the next day would bring another demanding day of work as a psychiatrist. However, strange things began to happen in the days that followed. It seemed that each day brought a sequence of events that defied any logical or rational explanation. Exhausted from long hours dedicated to her patients, Andrea would come home always seeking refuge and comfort. Yet what she found was a reality that disturbed her peace and further agitated the turbulent waters of her marriage. Each night, as if in an unbreakable cycle, the voice of a woman echoed through the hallways of her house, seeping through the cracks of Andrea's reality in a nearly mocking manner. "My Yu, come here and give me a kiss," she would hear the woman say. Driven by a mix of rage and desperation, the psychiatrist would fling open the bedroom door, her heart racing, only to find Juliano alone. Sometimes he would be there, serenely absorbed in his nighttime readings or lost in the luminous screen of his cell phone, or other times deeply asleep, surrendered to the arms of Morpheus in a peaceful, untroubled slumber. Andrea could no longer bear it. On one of those occasions, driven by desperate urgency, she searched the room for the woman she believed she heard. She looked under the bed, inspected the inside of the closet, her eyes scanning every corner, every shadow in search of an intruder who never appeared. "What's happening? Where is she, Juliano?" The question escaped her lips, tinged with growing anguish as the atmosphere of the room grew heavier with a somber weight. Confusion and suspicion interwove in her mind, weaving a web that threatened to suffocate her. Andrea and Giuliano's marriage, already marked by storms and misunderstandings, was now deteriorating rapidly. Arguments had become constant, and misunderstandings an unavoidable event. To make matters worse, he began coming home late, sometimes enveloped in the sweet scent of a floral perfume, triggering an explosion of accusations and recriminations from Andrea. "And that smell of cheap perfume. You're cheating on me, aren't you, you creep?" Andrea would shout, her voice laden with a hurtful conviction. "You've gone crazy, woman," he would retort defensively, his words bouncing off her. Yet, deep in her soul, Andrea had an unwavering certainty that something was wrong. "He's hiding something from me. I'm sure of it, and I'm going to find out what it is." Juliano always insisted that she was going insane, and that was the last straw. Feeling cornered and discredited in her own home, Andrea decided to act. Tired of being called crazy by her husband, she came up with an idea that would change everything. The next day, determined to solve the mystery that disturbed the peace of her home and on the brink of collapse from not knowing where the woman her husband was hiding was, Andrea went to an electronics store early in the morning. Her steps were firm, and every movement reflected the irrevocable decision she had made. As she navigated through aisles filled with gadgets and technological solutions, her gaze fixed on her target, a hidden camera small enough to go unnoticed. To remain unnoticed but powerful enough to capture the truth she desperately sought to unveil. Andrea purchased the hidden camera. She quickly arranged for its installation with an urgency she could barely contain. She explained to the installer the importance of being discreet and swift. "I need this to stay between us," she emphasized, her tone serious, leaving no room for errors or delays. The professional, understanding the delicacy of the situation, acted with efficiency, installing the camera in the couple's bedroom in a way that kept it hidden from prying eyes. Naturally, her husband had already left for work by the time the installation was complete, and the installer departed, leaving Andrea with her heart heavy with anxiety and expectation. Andrea also left for work, her shift at the clinic that usually served as a welcome distraction from her personal problems now appearing only as an obstacle between her and the answers she so desperately sought. Throughout the day, she couldn't detach herself from the events unfolding at home. "Today, I'll catch you and that woman. I know you're hiding her somewhere," she repeated to herself like a mantra, keeping her focus despite the whirlwind of emotions consuming her. The idea of finally having the necessary proof to confront the situation that tormented her was both terrifying and intensely desired. "That creep will see," she fumed, a fierce mix of fear, hope, and determination growing with every passing minute. Every case she handled, every patient she helped, only reminded her of her professional role as a seeker of truth, someone dedicated to uncovering the mysteries of the human mind. Now, that quest for truth extended to her own home, her personal life, where the most disturbing mystery awaited revelation. "I can't take it anymore. I'm anxious to get home and review the recordings. He won't escape today." This thought dominated every second of her shift, a relentless flame guiding her through the hours until she could finally face what the hidden camera had recorded. Finally, at 11 p.m., the moment arrived for Andrea to leave. Her heart pounding with the rhythm of consuming anxiety, she rushed home. The night, now a part of her routine of mysteries and suspicions, greeted her with the echo of the same feminine voice that seemed to emerge from the depths of her bedroom. Without hesitation, she invaded the space with determination and rage, shouting words that erupted from her lips. "Where is that slut? Juliano?" Her voice was laden with almost tangible desperation. Seeing no woman, Juliano, obviously seated on the bed with an expression of perplexity that quickly turned to frustration, responded, "Again with this, Andrea? There's no one here." His incredulous tone only fueled Andrea's fury. Armed with the certainty of her suspicions, she pointed to the small object that promised to reveal the truth. "I have proof. See that? It's a camera. We're going to watch the footage. I want to see where you're hiding the slut you're sleeping with." Each word she spoke cut through the air, every syllable imbued with a challenge she was determined to win. Her husband, in a desperate attempt to prevent what was coming, got up and pleaded with her to reconsider, his imploring words forming a sound trail she ignored as she made her way to the laptop. But today, I'll prove your betrayal," she thought, her breath heavy and mingling with her words as she prepared to uncover the truth. With the swiftness of her fingers attempting to start the recording, anticipation grew like a monster feeding on each second of silence before hitting play. Then, the images began to roll, a window into the truth Andrea had been so desperate to uncover. But what her eyes saw left her paralyzed. A chill of terror and dread ran down her spine. What was on those recordings? Nothing. Exactly nothing. There was no one but herself in that room, screaming into the void, confronting someone who didn't exist. "Where is Juliano?" she demanded. But the harsh reality began to crumble like sand slipping through her fingers. Her mind swirled in a storm of confusion and denial as she struggled to grasp any semblance of normalcy. The truth struck her like lightning. Andrea was completely alone. The room, the house, everything was empty except for her solitary presence. She looked around, searching for her husband, but he wasn't there. It was then that long-repressed memories began to seep into her consciousness, revealing a reality her heart refused to accept. Juliano, her beloved husband, had died over 10 years ago. For all that time, she had only been imagining his presence, desperately denying the devastating truth. Andrea's screams echoed through the empty walls of her home. No, no, it can't be. Juliano. Each call of his name was a plea for reality to bend to her will, for the illusion to persist just a moment longer. The name, loaded with pain, love, and denial, was all that remained in a world that had suddenly become unrecognizable. As Andrea's cries filled the air, a cacophony of voices began to emerge from the void. Words that seemed distant but gradually grew clearer and more insistent. "Oh my God, Andrea. Andrea, wake up. Hand me the syringe now, so I can inject her," an urgent voice commanded, filled with authority born of concern and professionalism. Fighting against the fog that clung to her consciousness, Andrea forced her eyes open, finding herself surrounded not by the darkness of her room as she thought in her dream, but by the sterile white light and concerned faces of nurses in white uniforms. They gently but firmly reassured her, their expressions a sea of concern trying to anchor her back to reality. Hey, calm down, you're okay," one of them said, attempting to convey a calm that Andrea felt slipping away from every fiber of her being. "Where is Juliano?" The question came out fragile, a thread of a voice desperately seeking answers in this uncertain world. They exchanged significant glances. "It's happening again. We need to inform Dr. Noguera," they said, concluding that it would be necessary to increase her sessions with her psychiatrist. With delicate hesitation, the nurses began to reveal to Andrea the truth she resisted accepting. A reality so grim it threatened to shatter what remained of her sanity. Andrea had once been a renowned psychiatrist, living in an apparently happy marriage with Juliano since she was 20. However, 10 years ago, a catastrophic event altered the course of her life forever. She had caught her husband being unfaithful. She came home to hear his voice with another woman in their bedroom, finding them together in bed. A scene that shattered not only her heart, but also the reality she knew. Driven by uncontrollable fury, Andrea left the house. But the hatred boiling inside her soon brought her back, resulting in an unthinkable act. In a moment of desperation and vengeance, she cut the brakes of Giuliano's car. Tragically, as he attempted to drive his lover away, the brakes failed on a curve, resulting in a fatal accident that sent them both plummeting down a ravine. The news of Giuliano's death, caused by her own hands, plunged Andrea into an abyss of madness and despair. Unable to cope with the guilt and loss, she spiraled into a severe psychological state, leading to her internment in the very clinic where she had worked. From that day on, 10 years passed. Years filled with battling hallucinations that constantly transported her back to that fateful day, forcing her to relive the moment of betrayal incessantly. It became clear that Andrea was trapped in a cycle of guilt and delusion, condemned to remain under medical care for the rest of her days. Her fate was sealed by the shadow of her past actions, leaving her adrift in a sea of despair and madness, a prisoner of her own mind, now and forever. If you enjoyed this story, you'll likely find our next video, appearing on your screen, equally captivating. Stay tuned for more exciting tales. A big hug, and until the next thrilling story.